This is Terrence Andre Banks coming today from Information Age Financial Solutions, discussing an article that I read from Politics. In 2022, the IRS went after the very poorest taxpayers. The title caught my attention, and I usually try to stay away from political topics, but everything's political these days. And I always wanted to know who are the IRS really going after when they're hiring all these 87,000 people. And it proves this point. Instead of going after the people that they claimed that they were going to spend more times with these the millionaires, billionaires who are trying to circumvent the tax law or do something to, they really go after the poorest of the population, which is a shame because that's not what they told it as they were going to go after. And articles like this is just to bring to your attention. You can disagree or you can agree, but it's just interesting to point out. I'm going to dive right into the article itself. Always, I'm going to put a link inside the description. In 2022, the IRS went after very poorest taxpayers. Despite $80 billion in new funding, the agency is living up to its reputation of hassling low-income taxpayers over rich people. That's the conversation. On Wednesdays, Syracuse University's Transaction Records Access Clearinghouse (TRAC) released data provided to it by the Internal Revenue Service on audits performed by the agency in fiscal year 2022. Despite the infusion of new funding earmarked for the IRS via last year's Inflation Reduction Act, the agency continued historic trends of hassling primarily low-income taxpayers, with relatively few millionaires and billionaires getting caught up in the audit suite. The taxpayer class, with unbelievably high audit rates, five and a half times virtually everyone else, were low-income wage earners taking the Earned Income Tax Credit, reported TRAC, noting that the poorest taxpayers are easy marks in the era when IRS increasingly relies upon correspondent audits, yet doesn't have the resources to assist taxpayers to answer their questions. Very good point right here. I'm going to read it again. Increasingly relies upon correspondence audits, yet doesn't have the resources to assist taxpayers on answer their questions. In fact, one ignores the fiction of auditing a millionaire through simply sending a letter through the mail, the odds that the millionaires receive a regular audit by a revenue agent, 1.1%, was actually less than the audit rate of target lowest income wage earners, whose audit rate was 1.27%. I tell you. The Inflation Reduction Act, passed in August 2022, directed $80 billion worth of new funding over the next decade to the IRS, so it could hire 87,000 new workers, purportedly to better target millionaire and billionaires who scuffed the laws. Scoff laws? The Biden administration and credulous journalists claim that this would in no way increase audits for those making under $400,000 annually. Suspect assurance is not provided with the next text of the actual bill. This increased capacity meant over only those at the top would be targeted, supporters insisted. But this ignores how the IRS incentives work and how agency-wide reform might be too heavy of a lift. Correspondence audits, which are connected via mail and are they the type frequently used with interacting with the poorest of taxpayers, are much easier and cheaper to conduct than other types of audits. Didn't know that. Plus, the Earned Income Tax Credit is easy to get wrong. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates that new hires with experience in the field will take almost 3 years of ramp-up time, with more junior new hires taking longer. The lag time between 2022's infusion of funding and legitimately increased capacity will be enormous, if the agency can even snag the best in the industry when TurboTax and HR Black will surely be swelling their own ranks. It makes sense that given a dearth of experienced auditors not likely to be fixed soon, the agency will rely on the easiest and least time-consuming types of audits, but be suspicious on the idea that an infusion of cash will solve long-standing problems with the IRS. This is, after all, the agency that sent $1.1 billion in child welfare payments to the wrong people over the course of merely 5 months during the pandemic. It's the agency that was hacked back in 2015, resulting in the personal information of more than 700,000 taxpayers being compromised. It is the agency that has been foolishly going after Americans who hold $10,000 or more in a foreign bank since 2010. Never mind the fact that many of them are middle-class expats, not folks with yachts in the Mediterranean. And it's the leaky agency that enabled the richest Americans' intimate financial information to the thumble through by ProPublica reads. It will take more than a little cash to fix all this, and as the IRS competence and tenacity increase, so too will the tenacity of the vast infrastructure of accountants and lawyers hired by the rich to creatively minimize their tax burdens. Though such libertarians may argue such an agency ought not to exist in the first place and cheer its relative ineptitude, at going after the well-to-do. It's societally absurd that the agency taxpayers just fed 80 billion to has for another year, continuing to its assault on the poor. Powerful article. And the stats that they point out, the agency has sent 1.1 billion child welfare payments to the wrong people. It was hacked in 2015, and they're putting more money to this agency. And from what we found out in the article, I would encourage you to read it because I did go through it quickly. That it's actually easier to attack the small, the cheaper or the poor of the population because the letters. Fascinating information. If this video has been any value to you, please subscribe, leave some comments. Until my next video for Information Age Financial Solutions, I'm out.